Hey, folks, this clip is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com and type in promo code VOLS, that's VOLS, at checkout to fill your freezer with enough gourmet food to keep your cookouts going strong into the fall. That is omahasteaks.com, promo code VOLS.
The week to week improvement, the game to game improvement there, I thought was as impressive as anything they did on Saturday because obviously you want to see Tennessee continue to win games, but you want to see them improve in the areas where they've struggled. And this year they really have. They've got better in short yardage. We see them picking up 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2 by being able to run the ball. Then you see where they didn't really close the game out against Florida. They let Florida have the ball a couple of possessions there where if they get a first down, they don't get the ball back. And then they correct that against an LSU defense that had been playing pretty well up until they faced Tennessee. So it's not like they did this against Missouri or South Carolina or somebody that doesn't have a very good defense. They did it against a team with some really talented defensive players. So that's got to excite you too. Just the fact that the team's improving, and because that was something under Jeremy Pruitt, Butch Jones, they just kind of stayed the same. They never really got any better. And certain times they regressed, certainly. But even during their good years, 2015, 2016, 2019 at the end of the year, you still saw a lot of the same problems week to week. And Heupel's correcting those problems, it seems.
Absolutely. I do have to bring up this comment right here. Danny says, I love this podcast. Thank you. Just have to inflate my ego a little bit there. Thanks to everybody who's watching. No, that's a great point. The development has been incredible because they're getting better every week. It's so refreshing to see. That's what I've loved. There's some amount to criticize about Rick Barnes. Can't not winning in the NCAA tournament and stuff, but the way that he develops players, where dudes that you kind of thought might be a lost cause end up being great. Like, it's just so good to see that. And Barnes has done it a lot in his time as basketball coach. And in football, it's just been that's non-existent. It has not happened with these past idiots that we had. And all of a sudden, guys are actually, wow, they're getting coached. They're getting better. It looks like they got better at football from one year to the next. What a concept. And week to week, they're getting better, which is just, it's so nice. And it makes you feel great about having these conversations because you go like, well, if that guy takes yet another sort of step forward, it's only going to get better from here. And it's so nice.
How about before we move on to the Alabama game? How about, and I know Tennessee fans have mentioned it, obviously on Twitter and social media. I feel like outside of that, nationally, even when they talked about Tennessee, they've won these last 2 games without Cedric Tillman, one of the best receivers in the country, maybe the best wide receiver in the SEC. Because let me tell you, I was not impressed by Kayshon Boutte at all on Saturday. He had drops. I mean, there were some of the passes that weren't perfect throws from Jaden Daniels. We know Daniels isn't the most accurate passer in the league, but they're balls that a player that of Boutte's reputation, 5-star guy, one of the top 10 recruits in the country when he came out of high school, plays that he has to make. And all this hype about him being the number 1 wide receiver taken in the draft next year, I just don't see it. He's not mentally locked in the entire game. He's not making catches that he should make. He doesn't have that killer instinct, it doesn't seem. I wasn't that impressed by him, but as far as Tillman, which is what I really want to bring up, as good as he's been, and to not have him against Florida and LSU and to still win, especially the way they won against LSU, the other wide receivers stepping up. Jalen Hyatt becoming a go-to guy when he was kind of non-existent last year. Ramel Keaton has kind of been a slow developer, but he's been out there making plays. Brew McCoy has been everything you could have dreamed of him being when he transferred to Tennessee. I mean, he had over 100 and some yards. He always seems to be right there when Tennessee needs a first down. So the other guys have really stepped up. And just imagine Tillman comes back, how much better the offense will look even than what we've seen the last 2 weeks or 2 games.
Yeah, me and Cronto were talking about that. It was sort of a blessing of sorts that Tillman went out. And to a couple of people asked, is Tillman playing? Cassidy said right here. Josh Heupel today indicated that he expects Tillman to play.
Yeah,
It
he kind
was
of acknowledged that that was the reason he had the surgery wasn't for the LSU game. They always knew that that probably wasn't going to be the case. It was for this Alabama game.
yeah. It was always going to be 3, 4, 5 week thing. And what would this be? 4 weeks. This would be 4, if I'm thinking correctly.
Yeah, it happened the Akron game, which was the
3 weeks.
September
3 weeks
18th. September 18th was the Akron game. So you're looking at almost 4 weeks. The game's
Close.
the 15th, so almost a full month.
Yeah. So it's about right for him to come back. Will he be 100%? This was kind of my prediction. From tailgate parties to busy weeknights, the flavor experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to savor all the flavors of fall with their mouthwatering assortments of perfectly aged steaks, ultra juicy burgers, and easy to prepare comfort meals that are ready in a flash. Right now, take advantage of 50% off site wide by shopping their semi annual sale. The sale only happens twice a year and it is on right now. You get 50% off delicious customer favorites. And when you use promo code VOLS, that is VOLS at checkout, you get an additional $30 off your order. And guys, I've had the burgers, I've had the Franks, I've had the chicken from Omaha Steaks. It is all phenomenal. Comes in this great freezer packed way right to your door. Incredibly convenient. I can't say enough about it, honestly. So don't wait. Go to omahasteaks.com and enter Vols at checkout and stock up on fall flavor today. Omaha Steaks is perfect for those chilly and busy fall nights with entrees that are ready before the kids can even say what's for dinner. And don't forget to use the promo code Vols at checkout and score your extra $30 off. Omaha Steaks isn't just steak. It is the best steak of your life, guaranteed. That's omahasteaks.com. Promo code Vols at checkout. Minimum order may be required. Omaha Steaks, promo code Vols. I think he'll be available and will play some, but will be limited. I think that's how it'll be. And you have to be careful. You don't want him to exacerbate it, make it worse, do it again, anything like that. And so you got to be careful. But Lord knows the kid wants to get out there and play in the biggest game that Tennessee's played in 20 years. Like, who wouldn't want to? If you're a competitor, like I'm sure these kids are, who would not want to get into the game like that? So I'm expecting him to play. What he'll look like, Lord knows. But absolutely, you look at how these receivers performed with Tillman out, and going back to that point where I said it was kind of a blessing Tillman going out. It built up this rapport with Hooker and these other guys, with Keaton, with Brew McCoy, with Jalen Hyatt. Like, we all knew that these dudes were talented, but this was just 2 weeks of them having a coming out party. Like, they suddenly, it went from Tennessee has one of the best wide receivers in America to Tennessee has a murderer's row of receivers who will burn you a bunch of different ways. And that's horrifying if you are an opposing defensive coordinator. How do you prepare for Tennessee at this point? And also, I think all credit right now to Jabari Small. Jalen Wright, he's still hang on to the ball. He had a fumble in that game that went out of bounds. Hang on to the ball. But otherwise, playing great and playing tough. And Jabari had a couple of really nice runs, and he's a step below that total breakout speed. But if he can pick up 7 yards on a typical run, every now and again give you 15, 20, 30 on a run, like, that's excellent. And it's exactly what he did against LSU. He put you in nice positions on second and third down when you gave it to him on first. And he just really has played nice, especially since that shoulder injury. It's not that I think that the shoulder injury would just completely sideline him or anything, but he's looked better since then for some reason. And I've just been impressed. I really have been. So in whatever sense, I do think Tillman going out has been good for this team because it just gave Hooker that many more trusted weapons. And this offense, with Hooker playing at a Heisman level and with these dudes getting better every week and Tillman coming back, your offense, when it is chugging, is going to be borderline unstoppable no matter who you're playing. That is the situation that Tennessee finds itself in. The defense is another story, and we've talked about it there. Bend, don't break, and everything. But this offense, at the top end of its ability, is arguably the best offense in America. I mean, I don't. It's crazy. It's crazy. I can't believe I'm saying that. But you thought Heupel was going to be this offensive guy, but did I think it was going to be this great in year 2? No.
Yeah, I
And
don't think
here we are.
nobody could have said that they saw this kind of explosion coming this soon. It was just impossible to predict. It's going to be interesting to me see how Nick Saban plays Josh Heupel this time around. I think he's going to take him he took him pretty serious last time, but I think he's probably going to go in with a very similar game plan as Florida and LSU. And if that's the case, I mean, what else? What other kind of endorsement can you give Heupel that's better than you force Nick Saban to change the way he coaches his team for 1 week? I mean, that's the best coach to ever do it, and you're impacting how he's preparing. That's insane to even think about. The Alabama game is it's got to be the biggest game that Tennessee's played in. I don't know. I asked this question on Twitter and got a ton of responses. Most people said the 1998 national championship game, but you knew that game was big. There's games that became big after the fact because of what they led to, and there's games that the importance maybe waned a bit because they lost after. But in my mind, this is the most important game since the 2001 Florida game. Even though they lost to LSU in the SEC championship game after that and blew their chance at the national championship, that was still, I mean, that was the game that put you on course to possibly win another national championship. Obviously, they didn't get the job done in the week after that, but to me, that was a massive win for the program. And this game kind of feels similar to that because if you beat Alabama, okay, suddenly talking about the college football playoff doesn't just go from it goes from a fun thing to kind of talk about, like, hey, yeah, Tennessee's in the conversation, to, oh, this can really happen. I mean, they can lose to Georgia and this can still happen. I mean, that's how big this game is. And look, teams have done this before. Josh Heupel has done this before. Josh Heupel in 1999 at Oklahoma, came in and went 7-6 with a first-year head coach in Bob Stoops, and he was a transfer quarterback. And then the next year, Oklahoma shockingly wins the national championship with Josh Heupel under center. I mean, it's not unheard of for something like this to happen. Now, obviously, I still think it's a long shot, but you win the Alabama game, and suddenly it's not likely, but it's very realistic that it could happen, that they could get into the playoff.
I believe the first playoff rankings, is it this coming, like not this week, but next week? I think.
Yeah, I think it's after the sixth game,
week,
or maybe it is. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody will know.
You win this game, you will be in that. You will be in the top 4. You will be listed in the playoff. Like, that's how real this is. That is how real this is. Like, you're on the precipice of not just like we had talked after last season. Our sort of main talking point was, let's get Heupel to where he is winning 9 games a year again, 9-10 games a year again, and doing that consistently, and that would be great. And then, some years you'll compete for an SEC championship and all of that. And yeah, I'll give him till year 3. That's the first year I want to see that and all this. And he's this far ahead of schedule. And not just this far ahead of schedule, but he has put this team in a position where if they win this week, they're actually going to be in the playoff conversation. It's mind-blowing. And it gives me like chills to think about that. But it really is.
To add on to that, just imagine when he's got, 3 or 4 top 10, top 15 recruiting classes under his belt. I mean, he doesn't even have that same talent that Butch Jones had in 2015 and 2016. Like, he's not quite there yet.